time to fuel your business success. Welcome to Harmonious at Lunch. We're bringing you bite-sized advice and expert conversations to drive clarity and growth 5 days a week. Make sure you join our Facebook group at humanopt.com/lunch, where listeners like you and our guests hang out so we can find harmony in business together. If you're building a business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking LinkedIn growth hacks. I always love these episodes, mostly because I can't stand LinkedIn, because I personally can't figure it out. I'm pretty sure our guest, though, has figured it out, and he's written a book on the topic, too. So we're going to dive in here. Al Kushner, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
So let's get this out of the way. Have you figured out LinkedIn? Can you help us today? Because I certainly cannot help the audience.
Well, for starters, I always recommend people to optimize their profile because you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression. So you really want to stress getting your headshots in order. You want to make sure your background images look professional. I've used services like Canva, which is awesome at graphics. So there's no excuse not to have a great profile. And once you have that started, then you can move forward with having a more richer experience on LinkedIn.
I like it. So why don't we start there before we kind of unpack the whole strategy? Because it really does all start at your profile. If you're commenting on someone else's post, or if you're posting yourself, obviously people are going to look at your profile. The first thing they're going to see right after your name is I don't even know what to call it, like your tagline, so to speak. So walk us through your actual profile page. What are the key sections, and what should we be focused on improving or conveying to our target audience?
Well, I guess it just depends on, what your profile is all about. I mean, if you're looking for a job, for example, or you're a professional that looking to acquire clients, it depends on everybody's situation. So the important thing to note is that you want to have as much information to make someone decide to connect with you, and what I find what's important is to look at certain keywords that are very optimal for being found on LinkedIn. In my particular profile, I indicate that I'm an independent LinkedIn growth strategist. I also worked on content strategy advisor, executive branding consultant, client retention expert, award-winning author. These are examples that I put as part of the headline to really stand out and make someone decide that, maybe this person is worth connecting to. So that's just one example to use when you want to make a positive impression.
Okay, that's a good start. And now so those keywords, you're embedding them in your tagline, in the kind of about section.
The headline, basically, where you have your name, and underneath that there's an area where you can do up to 55 words, I believe. So you want to maximize on that itself in terms of keywords, because a lot of times people will do searches on LinkedIn based on certain keywords, so you can get found much easier. So that makes a difference when you want to get reached by.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so then let's before we move forward, I'll just refine who we're talking to. So it's business owners, entrepreneurs, and people looking to be thought leaders. So looking to acquire business off LinkedIn, or through thought leadership, then acquire business or attention or followers. Not a whole lot of people, if any, looking to find jobs, listening to this show at least. And I would say maybe a couple of consultants, but it's mostly business owners and entrepreneurs looking to scale their business or scale their thought leadership and be a pillar for that industry. So that being said, moving forward, once we optimize our profile for whatever our target is, whatever our intention is, what do we go into next with your strategy? What's the next place we look at?
Well, to be honest with you, you want to focus in on any type of accomplishments that you have. If you won any awards, if you have done any volunteer work, which is all great for increasing your interest for those who want to connect with you. Those are a lot of things people leave off. Your skills, for example, you can do up to 100 skills and have people, for example, if they like you, they may check off a skill that helps to enhance more trustability, you might say. But most important, I look at is recommendations. That is crucial for any type of, I would say, if you want to build trust, if you want to become a thought leader, okay, you have to demonstrate that you have helped others or others have worked with you and made you um, someone that they would consider working with. And that really is something that people neglect. And that should not be. That should be your priority when building a LinkedIn profile. So that would be something to look at.
So are you asking for these recommendations? God, you mean you can't recommend yourself. You could, but it's a little weird.
Well,
But
yes,
who are you asking for these recommendations? Because that matters too, right? If you just get recommendations from your mom, that's pretty obvious that that's it's
well,
not
then,
exactly what people are going to use as a buying decision.
no, but people, if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn and you work with them and they're happy with your services, there's no reason why you can't reach out to them and say, ask for some kind words. That's really very simple. And a lot of times they'll be responsive to that. And you just have to be more proactive in doing it because people in general are not going to go ahead and leave a review for someone unless you request it, and you can do that by using LinkedIn to request a recommendation. So that's definitely a great plus.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. I know some people, and you could tell because they're committed to growing LinkedIn for themselves, and it's a platform that they focus on. They will, even after meeting with me for a quick coffee chat, they'll immediately go to LinkedIn, select one of my skills, and make a recommendation based on it. That stuff's always fantastic, but the majority of people are not voluntarily going to do that. So it's good advice to go request that stuff and do it in return too, right? Like don't be selfish on the platform. Go give it to other people so that you can then receive it in return. So moving on then, because
Mhm.
everything you're saying right now, while it's vitally important to start there, technically speaking, you could do that within a vacuum and no one could ever find your profile. So how do we get visible? How do we get out in front of people outside of just the search aspect and the keywords? Is it posting comments? Is it posting content? What's the best way, assuming people have not put any effort into growing their LinkedIn, to become visible and start acquiring content?
Well,
Contact, sorry.
certainly creating articles, will definitely raise your awareness. You can actually do newsletters on LinkedIn. You can do up to 5 newsletters and use that to do an outreach. Whenever you post an article, people could subscribe to your newsletter and therefore always know that when you have something new, they'll be alerted, as opposed to just posting in general, which a lot of times people may not be alerted if they're not following you or what have you. That's one example. Join groups. There are plenty of groups on LinkedIn that you can join and you can be part of. And certainly that gives you also ability to connect with people who may be part of that group. And maybe you be accepted by that person who wants to connect with you because you're associated with a group that they are affiliated with. You can do a search on LinkedIn depending on your specialty. If you're an attorney, there are lawyer groups available. If you're an accountant, there are accounting groups, financial planners, and you can just do an outreach. And once you're accepted into the group, they may have thousands of members where you can post in the group itself and also raise your level of awareness. That's just another example. Videos are great for LinkedIn. Okay, that's the new hot thing nowadays. Where if you want to set yourself away from the competition, create a video. And the key thing is keep the videos under 90 seconds because you'll be able to get more impact that way. And people's attention span is pretty short. So you want to be able to put as much information within that time frame to get your message across. And I find it to be very effective in definitely raising your awareness and your ability to be a thought leader.
I like that. Now, is there I don't want to say limit, but is there a sweet spot for the amount of content you should be posting on a weekly basis? I've heard from different people, even guests on this show. In the past, LinkedIn just wanted content. It was a beast you had to feed, right? And it didn't really care. Now it's more um, less is more, but quality is way more important than quantity. Where do you see the platform going, and what's an optimal amount of content to post every week?
Well, I would say at least 3 times a week would be a good thing. That's what I do. And I post usually between Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning between 8 and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is a great time to post. And if you want to get more attention, post videos. That's going to make you a difference because everyone is posting text and people are kind of getting tired of that, but when you got a video and you have something that really is impactful with a headline, you're going to definitely make a difference. You're going to move the needle to get more people interested in what you have to say.
Yeah, reading is so 2015. I'm over it. I only want videos.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, look at all the other channels, TikTok and YouTube. I mean, come on, that's the future. So you got to embrace that, and that's really where I see there's an opportunity available to set yourself apart by doing that.
Yeah, I agree. So then that being said, you bring the other platforms into it. I see people posting the same thing on 5, 6 different platforms, and some do well, others don't. Does that work, or do you really have to tailor the content? Is there a specific video format or style that seems to work best on LinkedIn?
Well, with LinkedIn, they prefer you to do it organically, to upload directly to their site,
Mhm.
as opposed to sharing a link where they have to go outside of LinkedIn in order to view it, like YouTube, for example. So you want to do it organically. You'll get more reach that way, and people will be more receptive to watching the video as opposed to having to go outside of that. So that would be a good way to do it.
Yeah, but are people even, are they in a different headspace? I I've I mean, it's pretty obvious LinkedIn is for professionals and the business world in general. TikTok is not. I'm not going to TikTok to learn necessarily how to grow my business. I know the celebrity entrepreneurs are there pumping out content, but that's not exactly the content that does well on LinkedIn. So from that perspective, when you're creating videos for LinkedIn, is it more, like this, like a podcast versus just trying to grab your attention really quickly, like you would on maybe YouTube, Facebook, or TikTok? Is there a difference in that style content?
Yeah, I find what type of content works is educational videos. Educate. You want to give more than you receive.
Mhm.
So if you're like a podcast, for example, you're educating people about topics that are of interest. You do the same thing. I would say 90% should be at least topics, and then maybe 10% of self promotion. You want to avoid anything that's advertising. It's more about educating people, let them make their own decision as far as if they want to work with you or not.
Right. Okay. That's good to keep in mind as we're creating content. So then let me give you a scenario. I want you to walk through it as if you are advising me, or as if it was yourself. So the listeners of this show, let's say for someone who has not prioritized LinkedIn, they have, 5 to 600 connections. They're not really active on the platform. They know it's important. They want to grow. They want to become a thought leader in their space, in the vein of acquiring new contacts or new referral partners and new customers. So we have that foundation set. I can only give you, Al, 1 hour per week. I'll put the time in to set it up. So tell me what the setup needs to be first, and then I will only give you 1 hour per week after that to maintain and grow this platform. What exactly should I be doing if I'm that person? If I want to triple or quadruple my connections in the next 90 days?
Easy. Get started with your newsletter. Okay, that you want to create content for. The amount of words in a newsletter could be about average 500 to 750 words on the average. Do at least once a week. Okay, you'll also get followers. So whenever you post, the individuals who are following you will receive that. And what's unique about LinkedIn is that they'll get that newsletter directly to their inbox, not just on LinkedIn, but also through their corporate emails or what have you. So it usually doesn't go to spam at all. It usually goes directly. So it'll be more impactful by doing that newsletter. And it doesn't take a lot of time to do that. You can post it, do a newsletter on the weekend or something, and then just post it, schedule it in advance. Timing of the newsletter does work. So you want to time it between either Tuesdays or Thursdays in the mornings, when people are usually more receptive to reading that. That would be a great thing to have available. In addition to that, if you have people you're following, you can actually highlight those people that you're following and be notified when they post, and then reply to their posts, usually, hopefully, within the hour that they post, if not less. Because when you do that, and do a little bit more than just thanks for sharing, you want to be more like, great article, like the point out certain things that you felt were very much hitting home with you, and then respond in kind. the individual who's posting it, and they can be a thought leader or they can be an influencer, know that you're being sincere, and that really makes a difference. And then while you do that, you'll drive their followers to look at your profile because you commented, particularly within the first few minutes if they're commenting, because they may have hundreds of followers and they usually will post afterwards. But if you're like in the top 5 or 10 postings, you'll get seen a lot more than you would if you just waited a day to respond, and you'll be all the way on the bottom of the list, and that's really not going to get anything. And also important is that when you do the post, you want to tag that individual. So put an @ sign that, and so they'll be notified that they had responded to that particular post. There's a lot of times when you post, most people don't do that. So that's usually a great way to do that, to get more responsiveness, to get that influence to notice you. All of a sudden, they may decide to accept your connection, And that's important too, is when you're reaching out to people that you don't know, you may want to refrain from that and just follow them instead. And then when they do some kind of comment, reply to that comment that may be more receptive. So when you do an outreach, they'll accept you because they know that, hey, you shared your feelings on my post, thanks for sharing. And people are more receptive to doing that way. So those are just some of the things you can do, and it doesn't take a lot of time at all during the week to do that and make that happen.
All right. I like the strategy. So there you have it. If you're listening, if you want to grow your LinkedIn, if that sounded like you, the couple hundred followers, and you want to grow it, try that out for the next 30, 60, 90 days and see the results. And then I'm assuming, Al, you can help us beyond that point. You have a book coming out. So tell us a little bit about the book. I'll put your website on the screen here, and who should go buy this book.
Well, anyone who wants to level up their game on LinkedIn, it has all the latest resources available for tools for creating content, for videos, for any type of creativity with art that you want to use artificial intelligence to your advantage. Because when you're creating content, that could be the most challenging because you have to think of ideas that may work. And tools like, let's say, ChatGPT or other intelligent platforms can help you create that content. So the book kind of, educates people why you should do that, and some of the resources that are available that help you to become, pretty much the go-to person. And if you want to become a thought leader, these are the steps in the book that shows you how to really become that individual and really dominate the competition. Of course, you're competing with so many people out there for the same type of work, whether you're an accountant or an attorney or a financial planner. You have a lot of competition out there. You need to set yourself apart. Getting the right tools to help you do that will give you an edge over anyone else. And that's where the book really helps to give you that knowledge so you can become, a thought leader. You can become dominant on LinkedIn and have a better experience overall.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So it's linkedvantage.com. The link is on the screen. It's in the show notes down below. All of Al's links are down below in the show notes. And I want to layer on top of this too, because we actually at HumanOp, we have a very unique tool. We've cracked the code on human beings and how to communicate effectively and authentically as yourself, but also with others. Our app is free, and we have an AI model baked into it that you can go use. So whatever content you create for LinkedIn, you can go filter it through the HumanOp app, through our AI, HAI, and it will tell you how to communicate most effectively as yourself and with your target audience. So couple that with Al's resources here, and you're going to be absolutely unstoppable on LinkedIn. Al, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate this conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
For those of you watching and listening, wherever you are, go grab all those links down below in the show notes. Go grab a copy of the book, and we'll see you back tomorrow on another episode of Harmonious at Lunch.
Another episode of Harmonious at Lunch in the books. I hope this episode made you think and you grabbed some actionable ideas to propel your business. Don't forget to like, comment your takeaways, and subscribe wherever you're listening so we can help more entrepreneurs just like you achieve harmony in their life and business.